What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Insomniac games, what's going on over there. And, this really came about in my head because of the DLC talk for Marvel Spider-Man 2, State of Play, obviously not being there. That's definitely one part of this, but I thought, you know what? We've talked about the DLC for Spider-Man 2 quite often, so I'm going to lead with that. We'll start talking about that in a second. I really just want to talk about kind of everything. We'll talk a little bit about Wolverine here behind me, and also want to talk a little bit about Venom, because Insomniac's in an interesting spot, right? They have just been cranking it out. They are probably the most consistent. I mean, you could maybe say quality-wise too, but definitely consistency of products. I mean, really this generation, the PS5, the weakest, I believe, PlayStation generation maybe ever, has kind of been carried single-handedly from Insomniac, in my opinion. They have done, honestly, a really good job. You could have gripes with certain games, but they've put in the work. They've definitely released more games, quality games, consistency, as all of these years have gone on. But we're kind of in a weird spot with them, right? Because Spider-Man 2 comes out last year, and that leads us to this, right? No DLC again. No DLC from the State of Play. Now, shouldn't be a surprise because my prediction for the last more than a year, I think I said this before Spider-Man 2 even came out. For more than a year, I have said that there won't be, my prediction would be that there won't be DLC for that game. Now, there's many people that disagree, whether it's, community or, fandom, or whether it's also creators. There's plenty of Spider-Man or, Marvel or whatever gaming creators that very much disagree and think that there's DLC coming. I have nothing against it, as I've always said, that's totally fine. Wanting or not wanting or whatever, none of my business, really, right? So if you want the DLC, that's not on me, right? That's on you, and that's totally cool. I just don't see it happening. Now, I guess there's a little wiggle room still, right? The one that everybody will go to is God of War. What I would say for God of War, though, is I don't think anybody expected DLC for Ragnarok, right? The way it ends, the way God of War has always been, was anybody, is it even the type of game that would do DLC, right? And the answer is no, until last year, until Valhalla, right? Now, that came out, a year and a month after the base game. That's kind of the baseline, because when you think of the Ghost of Tsushimas of the world, when you think of Horizon Forbidden West, right, they did Burning Shores, when you think of those type of games, well, number one, there's kind of a history there, and that's something interesting when it comes to Spider-Man, right? There was a history because of the first game. The first game leading into the game, we knew there'd be DLC. That was not the case going into 2, but there was that history with 1. But again, you look at the history of PlayStation and you just look at how things have gone. If it doesn't come out within a year, it's probably not happening. Again, though, God of War really throws a wrench into it and says, well, you might have to lay off calling absolutes, right? Because in all reality, or in all seriousness, I don't think you can formally close the conversation until the end of this year. I mean, it's possible at the Game Awards, again, just like God of War, this year they do Spider-Man, and then it comes out kind of immediately after. I will, although, continue to say, my prediction is it doesn't happen. My prediction is every week, every month, things look less and less likely that you would even get a DLC, right? Because it's just, if you're going to go into next year and do DLC, now you're a year and a half out from the game's release. You're closer, potentially, to Wolverine or Venom than you are Spider-Man 2, right? Because you'd be closer to those games than you were the game before. It just wouldn't make a lot of sense to me to do that DLC. So, what's going on in that department? I personally believe that there was never anything. I know people will look at the file, and we talked about that, right? The files and the names and stuff. People have done, I think, deep dives, at least what I've seen. There was never really anything in those. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I, didn't understand, the terminology the right way. But from what I understood, it was more of maybe the conceptual kind of stuff. Maybe there could be DLC, rough ideas, rough names, folder names and stuff with files, right? And that's kind of it. The work might not have actually ever been put into the DLC. Okay, so for that part, I just kind of want to end it. But again, we've talked about that before. I didn't want to make this video just on that. We're also, I think, kind of in a weird spot when it comes to Wolverine and Venom. And we've talked a little bit about it, but what I find interesting is the hack that happened, right? I think you actually have to bring that up for the simple fact that I really wonder what that did to them. And I don't say that, I mean, it's a curiosity thing, but I don't say it out of like greed or like, oh man, like I'm so, intrigued. Like I wish hacks would happen more often, right? So nothing like that. That was terrible. It was really, really bad. And I think we're seeing it. I really do. There's no way of formally and officially knowing, right? Unless they say something down the line. But I really think that hack hurt. And whether it does end up delaying Wolverine or delays Venom or whatever, I really think it's something that we have to just kind of keep in the back of our heads. If you want to use it as an excuse for Spider-Man 2 DLC, if it's real, I think you could do that as well, right? If there's DLC that does come out, say, a year and a half after the game comes out, a valid excuse for me, for my standards, right, would be, well, Alex, if it wasn't for the hack, maybe it would have came out 4, 5, 6 months earlier. Honestly, I would accept that. I'm not here to be combative. I'm here to give you guys my opinion, but I think that's very fair. So it is something that I have to think about. I think it's something that you just have to remember in the back of your head whenever people say, well, is Wolverine still coming out next year, or things like that. I mean, Wolverine at a point or at a time, wasn't it supposed to come out this year? When they first revealed it, was 2024 not thrown around? I'm pretty sure it was. Now, it was never like uber official, and it didn't stick for that long, right? But I swear 2024 was like at some, you guys can let me know. I'm sure there was an article or something that I'm trying to think in my head, but that's an interesting question for me, going forward, because it does put them in a bad spot, whether it's because of the hack or, whatever you want to say, because like we are approaching now, 3 years? It's been 3 years since they revealed Wolverine, and they're kind of, again, like I'll give them excuses. I'll actually have their back, in this case. But they're becoming the examples of things that I'm not a fan of whatsoever, right? I hate it when games get announced and then they go away for 3 years. Star Wars Eclipse, Wonder Woman, like Kingdom Hearts 4 and Kingdom Hearts 3, pretty much every Kingdom Hearts. There's a lot of games. And every year you get them, like Blade last year at the Game Awards, right? Looks great. I have faith that, they could do that relatively well. You're not seeing that game for 2 to 3 more years. And then it's not coming out for even longer than that. So I've always been, maybe not always, but I've been against that for a very long time. And it's sad because like we're kind of watching in real time it happen to honestly a company that you wouldn't really think it would happen to. As I said, I think that is what makes it interesting. That is what makes it worth talking about, because Insomniac's not really about this life, right? Like they don't really do stuff like this. So it's just, it does come across interesting in that kind of curiosity way where it's like, yeah, Wolverine is becoming one of those egregious examples of a game that gets shown and then disappears for 3 years. It literally just did it. Like it's doing it right now in front of our eyes. And if it doesn't come out next year, we could be going another year before we see it. I don't think we leave 2025 without seeing Wolverine, but I think we might have to wait till like the second half of next year before we see the game. Again, the hack, you can use excuses, and that's fine. Like excuses, not in like a derogatory, like a necessarily bad way, but it is something that I just kind of want to throw out there where I wonder, at this point, because a while ago I think I would have said we should have seen Wolverine by now. We should see Wolverine. Like it's a good Game Awards game. You know what I mean? If Sony's gonna have 1 or 2 games at the Game Awards, maybe you pencil in Death Stranding because Hideo has to be everywhere that Jeff Keighley is, right? And then maybe you throw in Wolverine, or at this point maybe like Ghost of Yotei or something like that. But Wolverine I think made a lot of sense, and now it's like, well, depending on which slides, because there was different like charts and whatnot in that hack, Venom might come first, Wolverine might come first. Like in one, I think it's 2025, 2026. The other, it's reversed, right? So that's another, I guess, to kind of end this video, like final question and just thing that I'm trying to throw out, into the ether and have you guys, discuss what you think. Does any game actually come out next year? And that's something where, you expect, obviously now, Ghost of Yotei to come out. You expect Death Stranding 2. And then, do you have like a curveball? Because actually the rumor is they do have a curveball. They do have more games, Sony, PlayStation exclusives, that are coming out next year. And I think I personally go to like Bend, like the next game from them. I go to Blue Point and Bend. It's been a long time for both of those games, both of those studios. So, I go to that. But is one of the games Venom? Is one of the games Wolverine? Is that one of the games that can maybe sneak in to next fall along with Death Stranding? Ghost of Yotei is like, July, August, and you can have a really, they might have nothing in the first half, but the second half, they might have like 3 major hits, right? So I'm just speculating. I don't actually know, but it's something that I do wonder, right? Venom or Wolverine? Which comes first? Wolverine kind of has its own situation and like issue, right? Because of the hack, because of knowing so much about the game, because of seemingly maybe even like 2 delays on that game. Venom is more mysterious. Like Venom, we kind of all speculated. It was confirmed in that way. So it's also, I guess, in a weird spot, but it's in a different weird spot versus Wolverine, right? So just kind of want to make the video, throw it out there, discuss what's going on. I wonder. It would be kind of strange actually to go into 2025, go through 2025. Let's not even say go into it. 2 years, then you'd have no Insomniac game. That's for a normal studio, that's normal, right? For Insomniac, it's just kind of against the norm. I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, but you're used to at this point having a game every year or whatever it might be. And honestly, I think it's very possible, but it's weird because they might have like a streak right after, right? Because you just had a streak, and then this year that we're in, you get nothing. Next year, you might get nothing, right? 2026, 2027, you could very well have Wolverine and Venom back-to-back years. And honestly, year after that, 2028, if you follow kind of the chart, would kind of be like Spider-Man 3, 2029, loosely was Ratchet and Clank, right? The next. So in a weird way, we're kind of right in the middle of the drought, and we might have one more year to go. And if everything kind of, and I mean, it's the gaming industry, right? It's very all over the place and a lot can happen. But if you kind of follow loosely and you kind of just go along with me, I guess, in this way, you could actually potentially get, say, the next 4 years after 2026 on, you might get 3 or 4 games in 3 or 4 years from Insomniac, which is back to their standard, you know what I mean? So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.